Welcome back, everyone. As you probably guessed from the title of the video, as well as the intro and the thumbnail, this is the rifle that we are talking about here today. This is a relatively new gun from the folks over at Daniel Defense. This is one of their new fully ambi offerings in terms of the controls. So I believe those were just released in December, and this is the SPR-III. It's sort of their updated or modernized Mark 12 that they made for years, and I got this one in ahead of the actual release. So we've had this one in for a while now, been shooting it a good bit, and of course now we are finally bringing you guys the actual review. Well, what is different about it? Well, a lot of things, and of course throughout this video we're going to walk through exactly what those things are. But of course, this is Daniel Defense's take on a factory SPR or DMR or special purpose rifle or designated marksman's rifle. So basically, something that can reach out a little bit further than your typical AR-15, handle sustained fire at distance a little bit better than your typical AR-15, and do it with excellent precision. Most of these rifles are actually designed around 77 grain loads. I'm not sure if I had those out there when I did the review. I don't remember because it was a few weeks ago now at this point. But generally speaking, they are geared for a heavier load. And this one here, of course, has their 18-inch Mark 12 profile barrel. So what that means is essentially back here at the rear, it is thicker. It's a continuous taper. And of course, it has a rifle length gas block, so a gas system. So the gas is right about here, the gas block, and that makes for a very soft shooting rifle. And there's other things that contribute to that as well, which we'll get to throughout the review. And then it tapers out towards the barrel, which of course is threaded half by 28. And Daniel Defense ships it with their flash hider on there, and I actually really like it. I believe I actually did a video on it years ago. But basically, it is an improved A2. So basically, they lengthened it a little bit more. Did not have the cuts on the bottom, so that way you're not going to kick up a lot of dirt if you're shooting it from the prone in that position, but also gives you good flash hiding. It's a fantastic muzzle device. However, we've been running the Centurion suppressor here, relatively low back pressure, 3D printed suppressor throughout the review. We've had no issues with it at all, of course. And if you're going to be in an SPR type configuration, ideally, my personal opinion, you're going to want to run a suppressor on there. So we have been doing that, but the barrel itself is made out of a proprietary blend of steel. So Daniel Defense won't tell us what it is. It's proprietary, but it is a stainless steel cold hammer forged barrel. It is MP and HP tested, and it has a DLC finish on there. And that DLC finish is going to give you good corrosion resistance, good surface hardness. Some people think it's the best finish out there. Other people will argue for other finishes like nitride, chrome lined. You guys can debate that down below in the comment section. But like I said, it's generally speaking geared towards heavier loads. So your 77 grain with that 1 in 7 twist that it does have on there. So that is the barrel. That is the heart and soul. We're going to see how it shoots here in just a second when we step out to the range and do an accuracy test with a few different loads that we brought out there. But before we do that, we do want to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is our friends over at Attorneys on Retainer, or AOR, as many of you guys may know them. So what are they? What do they do? Well, some of you guys know, some of you guys don't, but what they do, in my opinion, is they offer the best personal self-defense insurance out there on the market. Why do I say it's the best? Well, number one, when you actually call them, should you call them? Should you have to use your firearm, knife, axe, whatever, in self-defense? And you give them a call, the person answering the phone 24/7, 365 days a year will be an actual attorney. So the big benefit of that is not only the advice that you get, because it's an attorney who specializes in self-defense type cases. However, additionally, I should say, your conversations are going to be held under attorney-client privilege. So if you go to court, hopefully you don't. If you do, they can't bring in that conversation into the open court. It is protected attorney-client privilege. That is huge. A lot of the other competitive offerings use clerks or something like that, and that are paralegals. And those, of course, do not have the same protections under the law. Additionally, the person that you talk to on the phone, should you have to call them in the event of an emergency, is going to be part of your legal team. So they'll be with you from the beginning to the end. Additionally, Attorneys on Retainer will provide 3 attorneys total, including the one we already talked about, for your case should you go to trial. And they'll also pay for a local attorney of your choice, depending on where you live and what you want. If you don't know a local attorney, they will recommend one for you as well. Should be a code here on your screen that will get you guys a discount, but those are just 2 of the advantages. There's a lot of other advantages to the folks over at AOR. Their program, like I said, my personal opinion, is the best. That's why we were glad to get them on here as a sponsor. So with that out of the way, let's head to the range, shoot some groups with this rifle, and then come back and walk through it tip to butt. Alrighty, folks, time to see what kind of accuracy we can get out of this rifle. We have 3 different loads for you here today. First one up is just some M193, nothing fancy at all. Ball stuff from the folks over at X-Tac. So PMC X-Tac, 55 grain 5.56. Then we have a couple fancy match loads, and we will see how it does. On the rifle right now, we have an EOTech 1 to 10 scope, so plenty of magnification for the target that is downrange at 100 yards. And we have the Centurion suppressor on there as well. Other than that, it's factory. Let's do it. That doesn't look too bad from here, just for ball ammo. And this load here, this is the Norma Golden Target 2 to 3 chambering with the 69 grain projectile on there. This is their target match load. All the ammo that we're firing today, including everything you've seen throughout the intro so far, and you will see rolled in through B-roll, has come from our friends at Firearms Depot. So big thank you to them for sponsoring the ammo for today's video. Definitely appreciate it. The match stuff certainly is not cheap, and certainly all the ammo, the bulk 193 we've been putting through it, also not cheap as well. So we appreciate that. Let's see how this load does. Not too shabby there with that normal stuff. Last one up is going to be this load here from PPU. This is their match load, once again with a 69 grain projectile with the hollow point bolt tail. And we'll see how she does in this barrel. With this guy, this loose nut behind the trigger. There you go. I lost it, I think, through the group off. Anyway, let's go check them out. Already, y'all have already seen the groups better than I did. So first up, we had that M193. And looked like a little lateral stringing there. No idea why that would be. We're right at 1 3/8 of an inch with that one. Definitely the best group was that Norma. We're doing great until that last round. Opened it up just a touch, but that one definitely center to center. We are right at an inch on that one. So MOA. And then this one, I know the last one I pulled for sure. But even with that, a little bit wider than I would expect. But I've actually never benched that PPU ammo before, so I don't know if it's good or not. But it definitely did not agree with this barrel. So that is right at 2 inches and 5/8. So M193, a little over an inch, not bad about that. And then of course we brought it down with the Norma to within the MOA. I'm sure other loads would probably tighten that up even more, but that's what we brought out today. So that's what we're going with. With the accuracy out of the way, we're going to walk through it tip to butt like we mentioned, as if we were in the Navy. So we already talked about the barrel specs in the intro. Now this handguard here is a departure from what they've done in the past with their Mark 12 series by a good bit. So it is a variant, to my knowledge, rather I should say, it's the only variant of the Riz rail that has a Arca-Lock system on there. So the Riz rail, for those who don't know, is a variant of the Riz 2, which was on the Mark 18, and as well as the M4A1 SOCOM rifles that were issued during the GWOT to our special operators for 15 plus years. So it is a very proven, very durable, hard use rail. However, this one is designed for an SPR type of roll. So on the bottom there, we have the Arca-Lock all the way around. So it's not just back here at the rear like it typically would be on most of your AR-15s with Arca. It's the whole way down, but it also has M-lock slots on the bottom. So if you want to use an M-lock attachment, like a vertical foregrip or something like that, you absolutely can. Or if you want to use M-lock bipod, you can do that as well. Whatever you want to do with M-lock, you can do that, but you have the benefit of Arca in the SPR roll. I know a lot of folks like Arca for shooting from a tripod. That personally is really the only roll I personally like it for. For shooting from the prone or just a general purpose rifle, I'm probably going to use an M-lock bipod. But many of you guys out there may want to hunt hogs or something like that from a tripod with this, get above the brush, and it absolutely will do that very well. Now, this bottom portion of the rail is actually removable because, of course, like I said, it is a variant of the Riz rail. So if you wanted to add a grenade launcher to this, hey, you got you got some screws that you can remove, and you can make it happen. So that is one of the cool things about the Riz rail. But of course, we also have the M-lock slots at the 3 and 6 o'clock positions, excuse me, the 3 and 9 o'clock positions, as well as the intermediate positions. Those there are all M-LOK compatible. And then we have full length 1913 rail there on top. That is huge for this type of rifle, particularly in the modern age. If you look at a lot of the footage coming out from Ukraine, what you will see is a lot of folks are using either clip-on night vision or clip-on thermals to these types of optics. So you have something with, say, an LPVO like we have here with this EOTech Voodoo 1-10, that they'll run throughout the day, and at night they will clip a thermal on front and use it to engage targets at night. I think, again, in 2026, that is something that you absolutely need on this type of rifle because it's just required in the modern era, if you will. Continuing on back there, we do have, I didn't mention it, the gas block on there is actually the Mark 12 profile gas block, so a gas block with a storied tradition, if you will, of use overseas. It is made out of steel, and it does have a nitrided finish on there. And of course, like I mentioned, we do have ambidextrous controls on the lower, so if you want to move your magazine traditionally, you can. You can also do it from the left side of the gun like that with your thumb, as you guys can see there. One thing to note is that this is a Gen M3 PMag loaded with 30 rounds, as you guys can see, and the bolt is home. It closes and locks in there with no problem, as it should be. A lot of out-of-spec AR-15s won't do that. That's my personal opinion. I know some folks just got triggered in the comments, but it's true. So it does fit in there just fine on a closed bolt full of 30 rounds. And then we do have a good flare on the magazine well there. It's more than most, for sure, more than most mil-spec lowers out there will do. And then moving our dust cover up there, that will expose our bolt lock and bolt release here on the right side of the actual gun. So if you wanted to, you can actually press on the bottom portion there to lock your bolt, as you guys can see. And then, of course, when you go ahead and reload, you're just going to press that with your fingertip and your bolt will go home. I actually, even as a right-handed shooter, I prefer that. So if I have that option, I definitely do like it. So again, we're just going to verify that we are unloaded. We are. The trigger on this gun that it comes with is a fantastic one. It's a proven one. It, of course, is the Geissele SSA trigger. So it's not the SSAE that some folks may like. Some folks may like the SSAE a little bit better for this role. Me personally, I really don't care. They're both excellent. So it's a two-stage match trigger. And basically what you're going to have there is you're going to have that first stage right there. And that's about 2.5 pounds. And then on my trigger scale, the second portion breaks at 1.9 ounces. Now, of course, there's some variants to these triggers. Some of them are going to break a little bit heavier. I actually have one of these that breaks at 2.1 pounds on the second half. But this one, probably because we've shot it a good bit, is breaking a little bit lighter than that. So again, there is your first stage take up, your wall. No movement once you get to that wall. It is rock solid. And then I'll shut up and let you guys hear the reset. Very tactile, very audible. It kicks your trigger finger forward. I definitely dig that. Additionally, we do have an ambidextrous safety on this guy, which is something I do like. That's going to be one criticism, though, I do have for it, is right now as a right-handed shooter, when I go ahead and put this, I'm trying to put it into the fire position, it's hitting my hand. And some folks, some companies rather, the way they relieve that is they make this with a relief cut on there. That certainly would work, or if you made it a, say, like a 60-degree throw, that also would work. But in order to get that 90-degree throw out of the way, I kind of have to move my knuckle down. I've been doing it for so long, for so many years, I do it instinctively, but some folks may not, so that is something to consider. The grip on there is going to be Daniel Defense's proprietary grip. I have no issues with it at all. However, the lower is standard, so if you wanted to change it out for whatever your preferred grip is, you absolutely can do so. Trigger guard, Daniel Defense's polymer drop-in trigger guard. It's fantastic. Plenty of room for gloves, things like that. On the top, all the way down, both on the handguard as well as the upper receiver, it is T-marked, so mil-spec in that regard. Now, let's talk about the stock, and then we're going to open it up as well. The stock is the Magpul PRS Light stock, and it is on a carbine receiver extension, which is perfectly fine for a 18-inch gun. Many of you guys may be familiar with that. You could actually use either one, carbine or rifle length, but we have a carbine with the H buffer in there. You'll see we have good staking there on the castle nut, as you would expect from the folks over at Daniel Defense, but the PRS Light stock is an interesting choice for this. So I would say it's probably not as versatile as an adjustable stock for shooting and moving, things like that. I would also say that it is better if you're shooting primarily from the prone or from a fixed position, whether you're inside a house, shooting out a window, something like that, or shooting off a tripod. I do think it is better than most of your adjustable stocks out there simply because it's just so rock solid. So we have our two QD points there, which you can switch from either side of the stock, which I do like. We also have our traditional sling attachment points back there at the rear. This portion, of course, can be used for folks who want to either put their hand in there or come up under the stock, as I'm sure you guys have seen me shooting in some of the intros. You can raise your cheek piece here so you can adjust it up if you're using a higher scope mount on there. And of course, you can also lengthen the rear as well. It is a very versatile, very solid stock that doesn't weigh a ton. Speaking of weight on this rifle, it's heavy, no doubt about it. It is, I don't think Daniel Defense was going for a lightweight build here. So on my scale, it was 8 pounds and 7 ounces unloaded. So it is not a lightweight gun, no doubt about it. So with that, let's open this thing up and take a look at the bolt as well as the charging handle. Of course, we can't do that on YouTube, so we'll be right back. The charging handle the rifle comes with is Daniel Defense's gas-busting ambidextrous grip and rip charging handle. So basically, we have these 2 latches that will actuate the actual lever from either side, and then we have that raised ridge on there that's going to block gases from coming into the shooter's face, particularly if you're shooting suppressed. I dig it. I have this on a ton of different rifles. Actually, one of my home defense rifles has this on it as well, so safe to say I am a fan of that charging handle. One reason for that, I should just note, is that the actual wings on there are not super large like they are on some of these ambidextrous charging handles. I don't like them to be too large because if you get them too big, they tend to get caught and snag on things. And honestly, I don't need anything bigger than that because that's how big my fingers are, if that makes sense. So there is that. Like we mentioned, the heart and soul of the rifle is going to be your barrel as well as your bolt carrier group. So this one, of course, is Daniel Defense's mil-spec bolt carrier group that they have been making for a long time now, decades now, and it is universally known as one of the best standard bolt carrier groups out there in the market. So our bolt, of course, is going to be 158 Carpenter steel. Has that MP and HP testing on there. And then the carrier is going to have the chrome lining, both where the internal piston operates as well as in the gas key. The staking on there is phenomenal, as you guys can see. And of course, we are full auto cut in terms of the profile on there. One thing that does, of course, is help reduce the recoil impulse as you're shooting it. However, one thing that's very nice these days in 2026 is that if you wanted to use an FRT in this, both the lower as well as a bolt carrier group, it'll just drop right on in and you can go ahead and do that because that is something that a lot of folks in 2026 want to do now that we have that right back given to us, if you will, by our overlords. Now that we have the rifle back together, a few things to discuss here before we close it out. I already mentioned, of course, I had this in before the release, so that goes to tell you Daniel Defense did send this out for review. They're not paying me anything like that. They don't get to see the video first or have any input on what I say, so just know that. Additionally, you guys probably saw me shooting this with a bipod that was attached directly here. That is an AccuTac bipod made with the Arca head, so if you guys are looking for that, that is what it was, because people always ask about it whenever I use it in an Arca video. I've learned that over the years, so might as well just go ahead and point that thing out. The last thing to talk about this rifle is going to be reliability. So we have about 1,200 rounds through it right now. It has been 100% reliable. It had 0 issues at all. The vast majority of that has been PMC, 55 grain, 5.56, and 193 from our friends over at Firearms Depot. And again, it's had 0 issues with any magazine combination, any ammo, suppressed, unsuppressed, etc. It has ran flawlessly. The shooting impulse has been extremely nice, as you would expect from this type of build. It's just a very high quality rifle. And the price does reflect that, though. However, we can't say price on YouTube anymore, but will tell you the MSRP is right around 2,600 units of measure, depending on what the units of measure are where you live. Of course, street price is going to be a good bit lower than that, but that is the MSRP out there. Like I said, it is an extremely good, highly durable rifle. Daniel Defense knows that. They're not skimping anything in terms of making it bomb-proof, and they absolutely did that. I would feel very confident taking this into any type of two-way range where you may want a SPR or DMR capability. It absolutely will do the job, and it'll do it very well, in my opinion. So with that, that's all I got for you guys. If you have any questions about this rifle, anything like that, you can always post those down below in the comment section. You can also post those over at our various social media pages. Twitter is, generally speaking, where I'm the most active these days because it's where I'm the least censored. Of course, if you're watching on either Rumble or Twitter, because we do post our videos there as well as YouTube, there will be a link down below, which is the cheapest I know about the time to pick one of these up if you guys are interested in that. Speaking of that, I know this rifle absolutely is not for everyone. There's going to be people in the comments saying that there are, when rifles half the price or even less that can do the same thing. Well, maybe. There's definitely good rifles at half the price, no doubt about it, 100%, but probably not are going to be as bomb-proof as this one. That's probably what I would say on that, and not for the purpose-driven build that this one is. So It's definitely not for everybody, but it's definitely for people who are looking for that type of rifle. Getting back to where I was at, make sure you guys hit subscribe both on Rumble and YouTube. My algorithm, or analytics rather, tell me that about half of you guys are. So a ton of you guys are watching this video and you're not subscribed. If you like this type of content, we're putting out 2 to 4 videos just like this every week here on the channel. So make sure you get subscribed. If you've done that and you're still not seeing 2 to 4 videos a week on the channel, then there's an algorithm censoring your eyes from my content. Easy way around that is to sign up for the email at the website here on your screen. This email goes out in 2 different forms. One typically once a month, and it has all the videos since my previous monthly email went out. So that way there's no big tech giant censoring your eyes from my content. Additionally, we have a daily deals email. So should the scope go on sale, should the rifle go on sale, should the magazines go on sale, should the light go on sale, should the suppressor go on sale, any of that sort of stuff, if those things go on sale, they will be included in my daily deals email. For the item to be in the email, it has to be the cheapest that I know of for that item on that day, because I've already done the price comparisons for you. So hopefully that saves you guys some time and saves you guys some money. There's also a good meme in there that a lot of folks like. And overall, the daily deals email has been extremely popular. People really like it, and glad folks out there like it. Lastly, we have an SMS service that you can sign up for by texting the word gear to the code on your screen here. You can also sign up the old-fashioned way if you want to at the website here on your screen. That goes out at most once a day. And it will have one of 2 things in it. Either a new video that just dropped, allowing you guys to see my content without an algorithm in the way. What a concept. Or I should say, it will have a smoking deal on something that is very likely to sell out. And that way I will send it to you guys via SMS so that we can take advantage of it and get it before all the dorks who are not on my SMS list get to see it and see that it's out of stock. So with that, that's all I have. Thank you all for watching. I truly appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.